Captain Zethara looked at the blue planet spinning slowly on her ship's main screen. It was just another routine first contact mission for the Galactic Confederation. Earth appeared to be a simple world with basic technology. The humans had only just learned to travel between stars using primitive fusion engines. Their ships were slow and clumsy compared to Confederation vessels. The standard protocol was clear. The Confederation would make contact with this young civilization and slowly introduce them to galactic society. It had been done thousands of times before with other species. Zethara expected nothing different from these humans. Her ship, the luminous Dawn, entered Earth's atmosphere with grace. The humans had detected them days ago but showed no fear. This surprised Zethara. Most primitive species panicked when they first saw advanced alien technology. Instead, Earth's governments had sent polite messages welcoming them. The landing ceremony took place in Geneva, Switzerland. Thousands of humans gathered to watch. Their leaders wore simple dark suits instead of ceremonial robes. No weapons were visible anywhere. Zethara had never seen such calm behavior from a newly contacted species. As Zethara stepped off her ship, a small, elderly human woman approached. She wore a white coat and carried an old leather bag. Her hair was gray and her face was lined with age, but her eyes were sharp and bright. The woman introduced herself as Dr. Elena Vasquez, an archaeologist from the University of Barcelona. This confused Zethara. Usually, world leaders handled first contact, not old scientists who studied ancient things. Dr. Vasquez smiled warmly and said in perfect galactic standard, "Welcome back to Earth, Captain Zethara. We have been waiting for you." The alien captain's 4 eyes widened in shock. How did this human know her name? How did she speak their language so well? And what did she mean by welcome back? Before Zethara could ask questions, Dr. Vasquez opened her leather bag. Inside were 3 objects that made the captain's blood turn cold. They were crystalline data cores, the kind used by the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. But these looked ancient, far older than anything the Confederation possessed. The human woman held up one of the crystals. It glowed with soft blue light in the sunlight. "These contain star charts," she said calmly. "They show the location of every major world in your Confederation. They also show travel routes between systems that your people only discovered 300 years ago." Zethara's assistant, Commander Jekmol, stepped forward. He was young and quick to anger. "Impossible," he said in his harsh voice. "These must be copies made from our own databases. Primitive species cannot possess such knowledge." Dr. Vasquez smiled again, but this time there was something sad in her expression. "Commander, these crystals are 12,000 years old. Your Confederation has only existed for 5,000 years. The knowledge they contain predates your entire civilization." She handed the crystal to Zethara, who accepted it with trembling claws. The data core felt warm and seemed to pulse with hidden energy. Ancient symbols covered its surface, symbols that looked familiar but older than anything in Confederation records. "How is this possible?" Zethara whispered. Her species had ruled the galaxy for centuries. They had discovered the ruins of the mysterious predecessor civilization and built their technology on those ancient foundations. But no one knew who the predecessors were or what had happened to them. Dr. Vasquez looked up at the alien captain with eyes that seemed to hold secrets older than stars. "Captain, your people have spent thousands of years searching for the predecessors. You have found their ruins on dozens of worlds. You have learned to use their technology, but you never thought to look on the worlds where they placed their children." The old woman gestured to the humans gathered around them. "We are not a young species taking our first steps into space, Captain. We are the children of those you call the predecessors, and we have been waiting a very long time for our children to grow up and come home." Commander Jekmol laughed harshly. "Ridiculous. Humans are primitive. You have no space empire, no advanced technology. You cannot even travel faster than light without using outdated fusion drives." Dr. Vasquez nodded slowly. "You are correct, Commander. We chose to live simply. We chose to wait and watch while our children explored the galaxy. We chose to let you discover things for yourselves, to grow strong and wise. But now the time for hiding is almost over." She pulled out the second crystal and activated it with a touch. Holographic images appeared in the air above them. They showed star maps spanning 3 entire galaxies. They showed massive structures built around stars. They showed fleets of ships larger than entire moons. This was our civilization 50,000 years ago. Dr. Vasquez said quietly. We spanned the local galactic group. We had technology that could reshape entire solar systems, but we also had enemies approaching from beyond the edge of known space. The hologram changed, showing dark shapes moving between the stars. Even as simple light projections, they seemed to absorb the brightness around them. Several aliens in the crowd stepped backward unconsciously. So we made a choice, the human continued. We could not run far enough or fast enough to escape them. But we could prepare. We seeded thousands of worlds with life. We guided the evolution of intelligent species. We built defenses and hid them where no one would think to look. Zathara felt her world crumbling around her. Everything the Confederation believed about their history, about their place in the galaxy, about their own evolution, it was all a lie. Or rather, it was all part of a plan so vast and ancient that they had never even suspected it existed. You are saying that all of us, she began but could not finish the sentence. Dr. Vasquez touched the third crystal. New images appeared showing the DNA structures of dozens of different species. Human DNA was at the center, with lines connecting it to every other pattern. You are our children, the elderly woman said with infinite gentleness. All of you. Every intelligent species in this galaxy carries human genetic markers. We did not create you, but we guided your development. We made sure you would be strong enough for what is coming. Commander Jack Mull was shaking his head violently. No, this is impossible. Our scientists would have detected such genetic manipulation. They did, Dr. Vasquez replied calmly. The reports are buried in your databases under classification so old that most people have forgotten they exist. Your own geneticist found human markers in your DNA centuries ago, but the evidence was dismissed as contamination or coincidence. She deactivated the holograms and carefully placed the crystals back in her bag. Captain Zathara, I know this is difficult to accept. Your people have built a proud civilization. You have explored the galaxy and made contact with hundreds of species. You have every right to feel proud of your achievements. But the enemy we have been preparing for is coming. Our deep space monitors detected their advanced scouts 5 years ago. The main force will arrive within the next decade. When they come, they will try to consume every intelligent mind in the galaxy. Zathara looked around at the thousands of humans watching silently. They did not seem afraid or excited. They seemed patient, like people who had been waiting for a long-expected event. What do you want from us? The captain asked quietly. Dr. Vasquez smiled one more time, and this time there was hope in her expression. We want you to help us protect our family. All of us together, human and alien, old and young, advanced and simple. Because when the darkness comes, we will need every mind and every heart working together to keep the light alive. As she spoke, something deep in Zathara's mind seemed to awaken, ancient memories that were not her own, a sense of belonging to something vast and protective and infinitely patient. For the first time since setting foot on Earth, she began to understand that first contact was not about meeting aliens. It was about coming home. 3 weeks after first contact, the Confederation science teams were struggling to understand what they had found on Earth. Every day brought new discoveries that challenged everything they thought they knew about galactic history. Dr. Kesron, the Confederation's chief archaeologist, stood in the Turkish desert, staring at the ancient stone circles of Göbekli Tepe. The human archaeologists had uncovered these ruins decades ago, but now alien scanning equipment revealed something impossible hidden beneath them. The stones themselves were covered with carvings that matched architectural styles found on 12 different worlds across the galaxy. Each world had developed these styles independently, or so the Confederation had believed. But here on Earth, all the styles appeared together in a single location that was older than any of them. Dr. Elena Vasquez walked between the massive stone pillars with calm confidence. She had become the humans' unofficial spokesperson since first contact, though no one understood why the world's governments had chosen an elderly archaeologist for such an important role. The ground-penetrating radar shows chambers beneath the main complex, Dr. Kesron said through his translation device. His species communicated through color changes in their skin, which made direct conversation difficult. These chambers appear to be sealed with materials we do not recognize. Dr. Vasquez nodded and pulled out a small device that looked like nothing more than a piece of polished metal. She pressed it against one of the carved stones, and ancient symbols began to glow with soft blue light. The same light they had seen in the data crystals during first contact. "The seals will open now," she said simply. "But I should warn you, what you find down there will be even harder to accept than what I showed you 3 weeks ago." Captain Zethara had insisted on being present for this investigation. She had spent the past weeks reviewing every piece of evidence the humans had provided, and each new fact made her more uncomfortable. The data crystals contained star charts that were not only accurate, but showed systems the Confederation had discovered just decades ago. It should have been impossible. As Dr. Vasquez activated the ancient device, the ground began to tremble. A section of earth between the stone pillars slowly sank, revealing steps carved from black stone. The steps led down into darkness that seemed to absorb their lights. 12,000 years, Dr. Vasquez said quietly as they began to descend. "These chambers have been sealed since the end of the last ice age, before your species developed writing, before most of your worlds developed complex life." The stairs led to a vast underground chamber carved from living rock. But the walls were not empty. They were covered with detailed maps showing the precise locations of every major star system in the local galactic group. Trade routes between worlds that would not be discovered for thousands of years. Detailed biological diagrams of species that supposedly evolved independently. Commander Jekmal studied one of the wall carvings with growing alarm. It showed his own species in perfect detail, down to the complex pattern of color nodes that allowed them to communicate. But according to the dating methods they had used, this carving was made before his people had even developed intelligence. "How did you know what we would look like?" he demanded, his skin flashing angry red patterns. "How did you know we would exist at all?" Dr. Vasquez walked to a section of wall covered with symbols that hurt to look at directly. They seemed to shift and change when viewed from different angles. "We did not know what you would look like, Commander. We guided what you would become." She touched the shifting symbols and the chamber filled with holographic images. They showed worlds in their early stages of development, primitive life forms being carefully modified, genetic patterns being adjusted across millions of years, species being guided toward intelligence and civilization. "This is impossible," Dr. Kesseron whispered, his skin cycling through colors that had no translation. "The level of genetic manipulation you are describing would require technology beyond anything we can imagine. And the timescales, you would need to maintain active monitoring for millions of years." "Not impossible," Dr. Vasquez replied gently. "Just patient. We had time to do things properly because we were not running from the enemy. We were preparing to face them." Captain Zethara approached another section of the wall where symbols glowed more brightly than the rest. As she drew near, the symbols began to reorganize themselves into patterns she could read. They told the story of her own people's early history, but from a perspective she had never seen before. According to the wall carvings, her species had not naturally evolved their advanced pattern-based vision. It had been carefully developed over thousands of generations to help them navigate complex three-dimensional space. Their natural hunting instincts had been enhanced to make them excellent starship pilots. Even their social structures had been subtly guided to make them effective leaders in multi-species organizations. "You made us into what you needed us to be," she said, and her voice carried no anger, only a strange kind of wonder. "We are not who we think we are. None of us are." Dr. Vasquez nodded sadly. "You are exactly who you were meant to be. We did not create you. We simply helped you become the best possible versions of yourselves. Every species in the galaxy has unique strengths that will be needed in the coming war." She walked to the center of the chamber where a raised platform held a device unlike anything they had seen before. It looked like a sphere of liquid metal suspended in a framework of crystalline supports. As she approached, the device began to hum with barely audible energy. "This is a deep space monitoring station," she explained. "One of thousands hidden throughout the galaxy. For 50,000 years, they have been watching for signs of the enemy's approach. They have also been monitoring the development of every intelligent species we helped guide." Dr. Vasquez placed her hand on the liquid metal surface, and the device responded immediately. Holographic displays filled the air around them, showing real-time images from across the galaxy. They could see Confederation fleets moving between systems, research stations analyzing predecessor artifacts, colonies being established on distant worlds. "You have been watching us all along," Commander Jekmal said, his skin now a deep blue that indicated profound shock. "Every move we have made, every discovery, every expansion, you knew about it all." We guided when guidance was needed, Dr. Vasquez admitted. When your people first discovered faster-than-light travel, we made sure you found the safest routes between systems. When you encountered dangerous spatial anomalies, we provided warnings through carefully placed artifacts. When you found predecessor ruins, we made sure you found the information you needed to advance. The implications of what she was saying hit Captain Zethara like a physical blow. The Confederation's entire history of exploration and discovery had been carefully managed. They had never been truly independent. Every great achievement of their civilization had been made possible by ancient human intervention. Why? She asked. Why hide from us? Why not reveal yourselves and guide us openly? Dr. Vasquez manipulated the controls of the monitoring device, and the displays changed to show images of war. Fleets of dark ships moving between dead systems. Entire civilizations vanishing without trace. Worlds stripped of all life and left as empty husks drifting in space. Because the enemy learns, she said quietly, they study their targets before attacking. If we had remained visible, they would have learned our weaknesses. They would have found ways to turn our own technology against us. But by hiding and allowing you to develop independently, we made ourselves unpredictable. She touched another control, and the display showed the edge of the galaxy. Something vast and dark was moving there, too far away to see clearly but large enough to blot out entire star clusters as it passed. They are coming, Dr. Vasquez said, sooner than we had hoped. Our deep space monitors detected their advanced scouts 5 years ago. The main force will arrive within 8 years. When they come, they will try to consume every intelligent mind in the galaxy. Dr. Kesron was studying the images with the trained eye of someone who had spent centuries analyzing ancient civilizations. The scale of destruction is enormous. How many civilizations have they destroyed? Thousands, Dr. Vasquez replied simply. They have been doing this for millions of years. They move from galaxy to galaxy, consuming everything with intelligence and leaving nothing but empty space behind. They are not evil. They simply feed on consciousness the way other creatures feed on matter. As she spoke, a soft chime echoed through the chamber. Dr. Vasquez looked at the monitoring device and smiled for the first time since they had entered the underground complex. What is that sound? Captain Zethara asked. Dr. Vasquez manipulated the controls one more time, and the display showed a signal originating from Earth and spreading outward through space. It was complex and beautiful, like music made from mathematics and starlight. That is the awakening signal, she said with quiet satisfaction. It has just reached the Andromeda Galaxy. In a few hours it will reach the Magellanic Clouds. By tomorrow it will have traveled to monitoring stations in galaxies whose names you do not even know. Awakening signal for what? Commander Jekimol demanded. Dr. Vasquez looked up at them with eyes that suddenly seemed much older and deeper than the awakening signal had been traveling through space for 3 days when the first responses began to arrive. Captain Zethara stood on the bridge of the luminous dawn, watching displays that showed automated systems activating across the galaxy. Ancient facilities hidden on asteroids, buried beneath ocean floors, and concealed within the cores of dead planets were all coming online. Each facility transmitted the same type of authentication code that Dr. Vasquez had shown them during first contact. But these codes were not just old, they were impossibly ancient. Dating analysis showed them to be over 50,000 years old, predating not just the Confederation, but every known civilization in galactic history. Commander Jekimol had been studying the incoming signals for hours, his skin cycling through confused patterns of blue and yellow. Captain? These authentication codes match fragments we found in predecessor ruins on 17 different worlds. We always assumed they were some kind of technological specifications. But now we know they were activation keys, Zethara finished grimly. She had spent the past 3 days reviewing everything the Confederation knew about the mysterious predecessor civilization. The evidence had been hiding in plain sight for centuries, but no one had thought to look at it from this perspective. Every major technological breakthrough in Confederation history had been based on predecessor artifacts. Their faster-than-light drives used modified predecessor engines. Their energy weapons were built from predecessor weapon fragments. Their communication systems were adapted from predecessor data cores. The entire foundation of galactic civilization was built on human technology. Captain, the communications officer called out in an excited voice, we are receiving a priority transmission from Earth. Dr. Vasquez is requesting immediate transport to the Antarctic Research Station. An hour later, Zathara stood with Dr. Vasquez at the edge of what appeared to be an empty ice field in the coldest part of Earth's southern continent. There were no buildings visible, no signs of technology, nothing to suggest that this place was any different from thousands of other locations across the frozen landscape. The facility is 3 kilometers beneath the ice, Dr. Vasquez explained as she pulled out another of her mysterious devices. This one looked like a metal rod covered with symbols that seemed to move when viewed directly. "It has been waiting for the awakening signal for longer than your species has existed." She pressed the rod into the ice, and immediately the ground began to tremble. The ice cracked and split, revealing a shaft that descended into darkness. But this was not a crude hole carved by primitive tools. The walls were perfectly smooth and covered, with the same flowing symbols they had seen in the underground chamber at Göbekli Tepe, as they descended using a platform that seemed to float without any visible means of support. Captain Zathara felt the air growing warmer despite the fact that they were moving deeper into the frozen earth. Soft blue light emanated from the walls, providing gentle illumination that somehow made everything visible, without creating harsh shadows. "How many of these facilities exist?" she asked as they continued their descent. "On Earth, 17 major installations and 43 smaller monitoring stations," Dr. Vasquez replied calmly. "Across the galaxy? Several thousand. We needed to be thorough if we were going to prepare an adequate defense." The platform finally stopped at a vast chamber that took Zathara's breath away. The space was enormous, easily large enough to hold several starships. But what filled the chamber was even more impressive than its size. Rows upon rows of cylindrical pods stretched into the distance, each one glowing with the same soft blue light they had seen throughout the facility. "Stasis pods," Dr. Vasquez said, walking toward the nearest row. "Each one contains a human volunteer from the original Terran collective. Scientists, engineers, military strategists, artists, philosophers. Everyone we thought we would need when the time came to face the enemy." Captain Zathara approached one of the pods and peered through its transparent surface. Inside, she could see a human figure floating in some kind of clear fluid. The person looked young and healthy, as if they had just laid down to sleep moments ago instead of 50,000 years earlier. "How is this possible?" she whispered. "Even our most advanced stasis technology cannot preserve life for more than a few centuries. We had better technology than you do now," Dr. Vasquez said with a sad smile. "We had to give up a great deal when we chose to hide, but we made sure to preserve the most important things until they would be needed again." As she spoke, a soft chiming sound echoed through the chamber. The nearest stasis pod began to glow more brightly, and the clear fluid inside started to drain away. The human figure inside stirred and opened their eyes. The pod opened with a quiet hiss, and the person inside sat up slowly. It was a man who appeared to be in his 30s, with dark hair and intelligent brown eyes. He looked around the chamber with calm awareness, as if waking up from a long but expected sleep. "Elena," he said in a voice that was clear and strong despite his long sleep. "How long?" 51,417 years, Dr. Vasquez replied. "The children have grown up well, Marcus. They built a strong civilization spanning hundreds of worlds. They are ready for what comes next." The man, Marcus, stood and walked over to where Captain Zathara was standing. He moved with the easy confidence of someone accustomed to being in control of complex situations. When he spoke to her, his words were in perfect galactic standard, but with an accent unlike any she had ever heard. "Captain Zathara of the ship Luminous Dawn," he said with a slight bow. "I am Dr. Marcus Chen, formerly of the Terran Colonial Survey and the Strategic Defense Initiative. It is an honor to finally meet one of our descendants." "Descendants?" Zathara repeated, confused. "But we are not human. Our species evolved on Kepler 442b, over 300 light-years from Earth." Marcus smiled gently. "Not biological descendants, Captain. Cultural and technological descendants. We seeded the galaxy with the tools and knowledge needed for civilization to develop. Every species that achieved intelligence was guided by systems we put in place. In a very real sense, all galactic civilization is humanity's legacy." More chiming sounds echoed through the chamber as additional stasis pods began to activate. Across the vast space, hundreds of humans were beginning to wake from their long sleep. Each person who emerged from stasis moved with the same calm confidence, as if they had been expecting this moment for their entire lives. How many people are in this facility? Captain Zethara asked, watching the awakening process with fascination. 12,000 in this location, Marcus replied. About 2 million total across all the hidden facilities. Each person was chosen for specific skills that would be needed when the enemy arrived. We have scientists who understand technologies your civilization has not yet discovered, military strategists who have spent centuries planning for this war, engineers who designed weapons and defenses that have been waiting in hidden arsenals for 50 millennia. A woman with silver hair approached them, moving with the precise steps of someone accustomed to military command. She wore simple clothes like all the others, but there was an authority in her bearing that made Captain Zethara instinctively stand straighter. Admiral Sarah Chen Okafor, Terran Strategic Defense Command. The woman introduced herself. Dr. Chen is my nephew, though I suppose the family relationships get a bit complicated when you factor in 50,000 years of stasis. Admiral, Captain Zethara said, offering the formal salute used between military officers of different species. What is the current tactical situation? Admiral Chen Okafor walked to a wall panel that activated at her approach, displaying a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Dark markers at the edge showed the approaching enemy forces, while bright points of light indicated Confederation worlds and hidden human facilities. The enemy advanced scouts will reach the outer systems in 7 years. 4 months, she said in the crisp tones of someone delivering a military briefing. The main force will arrive approximately 18 months later. We have that long to prepare the galaxy's defenses and coordinate with the Confederation fleet. What kind of defenses? Zethara asked. Our combined fleets include over 10,000 ships with the most advanced weapons technology in known space. Admiral Chen Okafor touched another control, and the galaxy map zoomed in to show individual star systems. As it did, Captain Zethara gasped in shock. Every major star in Confederation space was surrounded by structures she had never seen before. Massive rings of unknown material encircled entire solar systems. Geometric patterns that looked like they could only be artificial stretched between planets. We did not just seed the galaxy with life, Captain, Dr. Chen said quietly. We terraformed it into a weapon. Every star system you consider natural has been carefully modified over millions of years. What you see as asteroid belts are actually ammunition supplies. What you think are gas giant planets are energy storage facilities. What you believe are natural phenomena are targeting and guidance systems. Captain Zethara stared at the display in disbelief. The scope of what she was seeing was beyond anything she could have imagined. The Confederation Council met in emergency session on the neutral world of Kepler Station. Representatives from 200 species filled the Great Assembly Hall, but the atmosphere was tense and uncertain. In the 3 months since humanity had revealed itself, everything the galaxy thought it knew about its own history had been turned upside down. Captain Zethara stood at the central podium, addressing the gathered delegates. Beside her, Dr. Marcus Chen waited patiently to answer the questions that would inevitably come. The holographic displays around the chamber showed the true scope of what humanity had hidden across the galaxy for 50 millennia. Honored delegates, Zethara began, what I am about to tell you will challenge everything we believe about our place in the universe. But the evidence is overwhelming and the threat approaching our galaxy is real. She activated the main display, showing the genetic analysis that proved every species in the galaxy carried human DNA markers. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Delegates began shouting in dozens of languages, their translation devices struggling to keep up with the chaos. Ambassador Telketh of the Rigel Consortium rose from his seat, his crystalline body flashing angry red patterns. This is impossible. The human species was unknown to us until 4 months ago. They have no technology advanced enough to manipulate evolution across galactic distances. Dr. Chen stepped forward calmly. Honorable Ambassador, you are correct that humanity as you encountered us appears primitive. But the humans who live on Earth today are not the same as the humans who seeded this galaxy. We made a choice 50,000 years ago to split our civilization into 2 parts. The display changed to show images of the ancient Terran collective at the height of its power. Massive space habitats that housed billions of people, ships the size of small moons that could reshape entire star systems, technology that made current Confederation science look like primitive stone tools. This was humanity 50,000 years ago, Dr. Chen continued. We controlled 3 galaxies and were expanding into a 4th. But our deep space sensors detected something approaching from the void between galactic clusters, something that had already consumed every trace of intelligent life across billions of light years. Senator Vexara of the Andromedan League stood up, her tentacles writhing with agitation. Even if what you say is true, why hide from us? Why not reveal yourselves and fight this enemy together from the beginning? Dr. Chen's expression grew grave. Because, Senator, the enemy learns. They study their targets for centuries before attacking. They analyze weaknesses and adapt their assault strategies accordingly. If we had remained visible, they would have had 50,000 years to study our technology and find ways to defeat us. The display now showed recordings taken by human deep space probes of the enemy's previous attacks, vast swarms of dark entities that moved through space without ships, consuming the consciousness of entire civilizations and leaving behind nothing but empty matter, arranged in strange geometric patterns. They are not biological life as we understand it, Dr. Chen explained as the horrifying images played. They exist as patterns of organized information that can inhabit and control matter. They feed on consciousness itself, growing stronger and more intelligent with every mind they consume. Minister Quellan of the Vegan territories raised a claw. How many civilizations have they destroyed? Based on the evidence we have gathered, over 2 million intelligent species across 47 galaxies, Dr. Chen replied quietly. They have been doing this for millions of years, moving from galaxy to galaxy like a cosmic wildfire. They leave nothing behind but empty space and the geometric patterns they use to mark their territory. The assembly hall fell silent as the weight of this revelation sank in. Even the most warlike species in the Confederation had never imagined destruction on such a scale. So we developed a plan, Dr. Chen continued. We could not run far enough or fast enough to escape them permanently, but we could prepare a trap so elaborate and so well hidden that they would not detect it until it was too late. The display changed again, showing the true structure of the galaxy as humanity had designed it. Every star system connected by hidden networks of communication and control. Every planet secretly fortified with weapons and defenses. Every species subtly enhanced to be stronger, smarter, and more resilient than they would have been naturally. We called it the Genesis Protocol, Dr. Chen said. We seeded thousands of worlds with the building blocks of life, and then guided their development over millions of years. We did not create you, but we helped you become the best possible versions of what you could be. Chancellor Mordek of the Centauri Republic stood slowly, his ancient frame trembling with emotion. You are saying that our entire civilization exists only because you designed it to fight your war? No, Chancellor, Dr. Chen replied with surprising gentleness. Your civilization exists because it deserves to exist. We simply made sure it would be strong enough to survive what is coming. Every achievement your people have made, every discovery, every work of art and philosophy, those are yours. We only provided the foundation. Captain Zathara stepped forward again. Honored delegates, I have seen the evidence. I have walked through human facilities that predate our oldest civilizations. I have spoken with humans who have been asleep since before our species developed writing. What they are telling us is the truth. But there is more you need to understand, she continued. The humans did not just hide and wait. They transformed themselves as part of this plan. The people living on Earth today are the descendants of volunteers who chose to give up advanced technology and live simple lives as guardians and record keepers. Dr. Chen nodded. We needed some of our people to remain visible in case the enemy sent scouts ahead of their main force. If they found only empty space where intelligence had once existed, they might become suspicious. But they also needed to see a civilization that appeared weak and primitive. The humans on Earth sacrificed their technology and their comfort to play the role of a young species just learning to explore space. Meanwhile, the rest of humanity entered extended stasis in hidden facilities throughout the galaxy, waiting for the signal that would awaken them when they were needed. Ambassador Telketh's crystalline body had shifted to a confused purple color. How many humans are in these hidden facilities? Approximately 2 billion, Dr. Chen replied calmly. They include the greatest scientists, engineers, military strategists, and philosophers from the height of our civilization. Each person was chosen for specific skills that would be needed when the enemy finally arrived. The scope of the revelation was staggering. 2 billion humans with technology 50,000 years more advanced than anything the Confederation possessed. Hidden weapons systems built into the structure of space itself. an entire galaxy secretly converted into a massive defense installation. Senator Vexara raised a tentacle. "What do you need from us?" Dr. Chen smiled for the first time since addressing the assembly. "We need you to be yourselves, Senator. Your fleets are mobile and adaptable in ways our hidden installations are not. Your scientists bring fresh perspectives that complement our ancient knowledge. Your diverse species represent approaches to problem-solving that humanity alone could never have developed. Most importantly," he continued, "you represent something the enemy has never encountered before. They have consumed millions of civilizations, but every one of those civilizations developed naturally. You are the first species they will face that were specifically designed to resist them." Chancellor Mordek stood again, his voice carrying the weight of his great age and experience. "Dr. Chen, you speak of resistance and defense, but what you have described sounds more like a trap. Are we the bait?" Dr. Chen's expression grew serious. "Chancellor, you are not bait. You are the spring of the trap. The enemy will come expecting to find scattered primitive civilizations that they can consume one by one. Instead, they will find a unified galaxy defended by technology they cannot understand, guided by strategies they cannot predict, and protected by minds they were never designed to defeat. Every defensive system we built was designed to work in cooperation with the fleets and technologies you have developed independently. Every weapon we hid was positioned to support the tactics your military leaders prefer. Every trap we set requires your participation to be fully effective." The display showed tactical simulations of the coming battle. Confederation fleets working in coordination with massive hidden weapons platforms. Ancient human technology supporting attacks planned by alien military minds. It was a level of integration that would have been impossible if humanity had revealed itself earlier. Captain Zethara looked around the assembly hall at representatives of hundreds of worlds and dozens of species. "Honored delegates, we have a choice to make. We can choose to see ourselves as pawns in an ancient human game, or we can choose to see ourselves as the inheritors of the greatest defensive strategy in galactic history. The humans could have built automated defenses that required no one's help. They could have created artificial intelligences to manage their trap, without involving any other species. But they chose to include us because they believed we would make the defense stronger, not weaker." Dr. Chen nodded approvingly. Captain Zethara under the enemy arrived exactly when the ancient human predictions said they would. Captain Zethara stood on the bridge of the luminous dawn, now serving as the flagship for the combined Confederation human defense fleet. Around her ship, thousands of vessels from dozens of species held formation in the space between stars, waiting for the darkness to come. It had been 8 years since first contact with humanity. 8 years of preparation, coordination, and the gradual awakening of ancient defensive systems across the galaxy. Now, as dark shapes began to emerge from the void between galaxies, all of that preparation would finally be tested. "Contact on long-range sensors," reported Commander Jekmol, his skin patterns now showing the calm blue of absolute focus. Multiple signatures bearing 27 Mark IV, distance, approximately 50 light-years and closing. Dr. Marcus Chen stood beside Captain Zethara, studying the sensor displays with the experienced eye of someone who had spent decades planning for this moment. "They are larger than our projections suggested," he said quietly. "The main force appears to be concentrated in structures the size of small moons." "How many ships?" Zethara asked, though she was beginning to understand that normal concepts of ships and fleets might not apply to this enemy. "They do not use ships as we understand them," Dr. Chen replied. "The entities exist as patterns of organized consciousness that can inhabit and control matter. What you are seeing on sensors are massive collections of converted material, probably the remains of civilizations they consumed in other galaxies." Admiral Sarah Chen Okafor's voice came through the communication system from her command station on Earth. "All units, this is Command Central. The enemy is now within range of our outer detection grid. Beginning Phase 1 defensive actions." Across the galaxy, ancient systems that had waited in darkness for 50,000 years began to activate. What the Confederation had always believed were natural phenomena revealed their true purpose. Pulsars that had provided navigation references for millennia suddenly began transmitting targeting data. Gas giant planets opened like flowers to reveal massive weapon platforms hidden in their cores. "Phase 1 complete," Admiral Chen Okafor reported. All perimeter systems are online and tracking the enemy force. Estimated time to engagement, 4 hours, 17 minutes. Captain Zathara watched as the main display showed the true scope of the galaxy's defenses for the first time. Every star system was connected by networks of communication and control that made the Confederation's best technology look primitive. Weapons capable of destroying entire fleets were hidden in asteroid belts and planetary rings throughout known space. "Dr. Chen," she said, "I need to understand something. If you could build defenses like this, why did you need us at all? These weapons could destroy the enemy without any help from Confederation forces." Dr. Chen smiled grimly. "Because, Captain, the enemy learns. They have consumed millions of civilizations by studying their tactics and adapting accordingly. Our hidden weapons will surprise them initially, but they will quickly develop countermeasures. That is when we will need the one thing they cannot predict or prepare for, which is innovation, creativity, the ability to think of solutions that have never been tried before. Your species and the others in the Confederation represent millions of years of independent evolution. Your minds work in ways that neither humanity nor the enemy can fully predict. When our planned defenses fail, you will invent new ones." As if to prove his point, the enemy formation suddenly changed. The massive structures that had been approaching in a predictable pattern began to spread out and adapt their approach. Dark tendrils of energy reached ahead of the main force, probing the galaxy's defenses and searching for weaknesses. "They are scanning our perimeter defenses," Commander Jekmol reported. "The probe energy has come strange. It feels like something is trying to read our thoughts. All ships activate mental shielding protocols," Admiral Chen Okafor ordered. "Do not allow direct thought contact with the enemy probes. They are trying to learn our defensive plans by reading our minds." Captain Zathara felt a cold touch at the edge of her consciousness as something alien tried to probe her thoughts. But the mental shielding technology humanity had provided pushed the invasion back easily. Around her, the bridge crew worked with calm efficiency despite the cosmic horror bearing down on them. "First engagement in 30 seconds, Dr. Chen announced. "The enemy has detected our outer weapons platforms and is moving to neutralize them. All fleet units prepare to execute attack pattern Alpha." The battle began with weapons fire that could be seen across multiple star systems. Ancient human defensive platforms emerged from hiding and unleashed energies that turned space itself into a weapon. The enemy's massive structures retaliated with beams of pure darkness that seemed to absorb light and matter equally. For the first few hours, the hidden defenses worked exactly as planned. Enemy formations were broken up by weapons they had never encountered before. Dark entities that had consumed entire galaxies found themselves facing technology designed specifically to resist their attacks. But then, as Dr. Chen had predicted, the enemy began to adapt. They studied the human weapons and developed countermeasures. They learned to absorb the energy of the defensive platforms and turn it against other targets. They began to push deeper into the galaxy, overwhelming the outer defenses through sheer persistence. "Phase 2, Admiral Chen Okafor ordered. "All fleet units engage at will. Show them what independence means." This was the moment Dr. Chen had been waiting for. As the enemy adapted to human technology, the Confederation fleets began their own attack. But instead of using predictable tactics, each species fought according to their own nature and abilities. The crystalline beings of the Rigel Consortium used their ability to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, appearing and disappearing unpredictably around enemy formations. The gas-dwelling species from the Vegan territories flowed through space like living clouds, surrounding enemy structures and attacking from every direction at once. Captain Zathara led her own species' contribution to the battle. Their natural pattern recognition abilities allowed them to predict enemy movements and coordinate attacks with surgical precision. They wove between the massive enemy structures like dancers, striking at weak points with devastating accuracy. For every tactic the enemy adapted to counter, the diverse alliance invented 3 new approaches. When the darkness learned to absorb energy weapons, the Andromedan League began using kinetic projectiles accelerated to near-light speed. When it developed defenses against physical attacks, the hive mind species from Proxima Centauri attacked with coordinated swarms of tiny ships that overwhelmed enemy tracking systems. "They are confused," Dr. Chen observed with satisfaction as enemy formations began to falter. "They have never faced opponents who fight with such diversity. Every time they adapt to one approach, 5 new ones appear. But the enemy was vast and patient. They began to withdraw from direct engagement, spreading throughout the galaxy instead of concentrating their forces. They started consuming undefended worlds, growing stronger with each victory and learning from each encounter. They are changing strategy, Admiral Chen Okafor reported. Instead of direct confrontation, they are trying to consume the galaxy piece by piece. At their current rate of expansion, they will overwhelm our defenses within 6 months. Dr. Chen's expression grew thoughtful. Then it is time for Phase 3. Admiral, activate the Omega Protocol. Omega Protocol acknowledged, the Admiral replied. All units prepare for galaxy-wide coordinated action. This is what we trained for. Captain Zethara watched in amazement as the true scope of humanity's preparation finally revealed itself. The entire galaxy had been converted into a single massive weapon system. Every star, every planet, every asteroid had been subtly modified over millions of years to serve as part of an incomprehensibly vast machine. Stars began to pulse in coordinated patterns, creating resonance waves that traveled faster than light. Planets shifted in their orbits, aligning themselves to focus gravitational forces. Gas giants released clouds of exotic matter that formed geometric patterns spanning entire solar systems. The galaxy itself is a weapon, Dr. Chen explained as reality warped around them. We spent 50,000 years turning every natural phenomenon into a component of a defense system. The enemy thought they were invading a collection of separate civilizations. Instead, they walked into a trap the size of an entire galaxy. The effect on the enemy was immediate and devastating. The dark entities that had seemed unstoppable suddenly found themselves trapped in a web of forces they could not understand or escape. The very space they occupied began to work against them, constraining their movements and limiting their ability to consume matter and energy. But it was not just the ancient human technology that won the battle. The diverse alliance of species continued to innovate and adapt throughout the engagement. When the galaxy-wide weapon system needed precise targeting, Confederation forces provided it. When the enemy found temporary weaknesses in the trap, alien ingenuity closed them. The final phase of the battle lasted for 3 days.